advocate. Whether it's the phone tapping controversy, India's insurgencies, or the dissolution of the Bihar Assembly, my guest today is at the center of all these issues. How does he manage and handle the incredible challenges that he has to deal with? In a sense, that's the critical question that I shall put today in an exclusive interview to the Home Minister, Shivraj Patil. Home Minister, let's start with the Bofors story that's dominating the news. As Home Minister of India and as a former Speaker of the Lok Sabha, can you accept that the government's image is fairly badly damaged?
Well, what the government has done is based on the facts collected by them. And if on the facts collected by them they take a decision, and which is a correct decision, it's very difficult to say because it will create some different public opinion. We should not take a correct decision.
In other words, regardless of what the public thinks about defreezing the Quattrochi accounts, if it's the right thing to do, the government should have the courage to do it.
I wouldn't say in spite of the fact that the people think otherwise and it should not have been done or it should not have been done. I would say that in certain cases, if the matter is pending for a long time, investigation has taken place, different governments have been there which have looked into the matter, and the officers working with them have collected the information, and the courts have given the judgments acquitting the persons against whom allegations were made. At some point or the other, government which is in position to take the decision, which is responsible for taking has to take a decision.
Let me quote to you what the Hindu, a paper that is usually very friendly to your government, has written. Mr. Quattrochi remains unaccused under the Indian criminal system. Providing him assistance in unlocking his bank accounts is tantamount to subverting the course of justice.
Well, that is a judgment pronounced by one of our friends in the media. And when we respect the judgments of our friends and the media, well, we shall have to go by what is the legal position.
In which case, how do you respond to the fact that almost every single newspaper in the country, and increasingly many of your own allies, are calling for the resignation of the law minister on the grounds that he has transgressed his authority and he has betrayed the trust of the Indian people in the criminal system?
What the court says is more important, and what the court says is binding. And if somebody is saying that somebody is responsible without going into the facts, we shall have to see whether it is correct or not. The facts which came to the notice, which were brought to the notice of the people later on, are quite contrary to the facts which were mentioned.
The core over here is that what the law minister has said is very different to what the director of the CBI first said. The director of the CBI first said that Mr. Quattrochi remains an accused, that in fact he is someone we are still seeking to extradite. Yet on the very same day, the law minister said that there is no evidence against Mr. Quattrochi, and this has been conveyed to the British government. The two are saying different things.
I would not like to go into the details because the details are not available with me. Now on this, the CBI and those who have been dealing with this case are in a position. I was replying to the general nature of the question you had put to me. Details can come from those who have the papers with them.
So on the general issue of the image of the government, you're saying to me as Home Minister, you don't think it suffered?
Well, it is a judgment which can be pronounced by individuals who are with some parties, individuals who are with us, and individuals who are not with any shade of political shade.
In other words, it's only individuals who say that the government has suffered. You don't believe the people as a whole say it?
Well, how does it matter whether I believe or I don't believe?
In which case,
what they do is they do.
Well, that's true. That's a very laid-back approach to take to people's individual opinion. Let's move to an issue that is more directly connected with your portfolio as Home Minister of India. Practically every single leading opposition leader has begun to claim that his or her phone is tapped. How seriously worried are you by this spate of accusations?
Well, I don't think that that is a fact.
What do you mean it's not a fact? Jaya Lalita, Deva Gowda, L.K. Advani, the left, Mulayam Singh, Mamta Banerjee, Chandrababu Naidu, Badal, George Fernandez, Amar Singh, they're all claiming their phones.
If you had heard the statement made by Mr. Advani, he said, I don't know whether my phone is tapped.
But Venkaiah Naidu said it was.
No, Venkaiah Naidu saying is completely different from what Mr. Advani says.
So you're saying that in fact that these are unsubstantiated allegations.
That means you will find that the person whose phone is alleged to have been tapped is giving a different version from a person who has nothing to do with that phone.
What about Chandrababu Naidu, Badal,
even
Mulayam Singh, Jaya Lalita, Deva Gowda?
I would not comment on what they have said, because the comments which are brought to our notice, if you read carefully, they are completely different from what is said to have been said by them.
So in other words, what they say to you in private is different to what they're saying to the press?
No, that is not the same. I'm saying that, look, you mentioned one gentleman's name, one leader's name, respected leader's name. His version was completely different.
What about all the others? What about Jaya Lalita, Deva Gowda,
I shall have to know.
Naidu?
I shall have to know exactly what they have said. But the point...
Can I make an interruption? I get the feeling that you're not terribly concerned by the fact that so many people, many of whom are so senior, some of whom are former prime ministers and former chief ministers, you're not concerned that they're alleging phones have been tapped?
I am not going to go into the details when I'm talking to you in a limited period of time. If this matter is raised on the floor of the House, I will give a detailed reply, and I will quote what they had said, and I will quote what was printed and what was brought to the notice. And I would say, give the quotations and give the information, the statements made by others also, when we were not in power.
So it sounds to me as if you're saying that I want proof, I want real detail, and only then will I as Home Minister respond.
I am not expected to comment on the things without going into the details. If I have to get any information, I would get that information from my own ministry, from the ministry, home ministries of the state governments, and from others who are allowed to tap the phones, and then I would say whether they are making a correct statement or not statement. I am not saying anything.
What about people who say that this response is a very technical response? It suggests that you're indifferent and that you're callous and you're uncaring about a problem the country is worried about.
You can say anything if you want to say anything. But I have to be, as a minister, correct and factually correct. Without collecting the information about what has been alleged and what has happened, if I make any statement saying, yes, it has been done, or no, it has been done, I would not be correct.
Two of your colleagues at least, the Law Minister and your own Deputy Shri Prakash Jaiswal, have said that the law needs to be changed.
Well, that is a different issue.
Do you accept that there is need to look into the law?
That's a different issue. And even Mr. Karat also said something about the law and the system that is followed. That is something which has to be looked into.
You're open to that?
Well, this is something on which I wouldn't say that I would not look into it.
Let me point to two instances where people are concerned with the law regarding phone tapping. Firstly, they say that the clause in the 1885 Telegraph Act that permits phone tapping in the interest of public safety is too vague. It needs to be tightened because it leads to abuse.
That can be examined on the floor of the House. And if any improvement is required, we will certainly do it. Anybody going to anybody's house, any film star's house, tapping his personal life and then showing it, should it be allowed and not? These are also the issues.
More specifically, people say that...
And in many cases, the phones were tapped and they were sent to the experts, and the reports which have come from the experts are not also correct. So anybody is forging, anybody is saying something which is not factually correct.
But before we confuse the issue, you are open to considering a tightening of the law so that phone tapping becomes more difficult?
Definitely. If anything has to be done to protect the privacy and the reputation and the interest of any person, any association, any political party, and at the same time, in the interest of the country, which has to be done.
What about, forgive me interrupting
this can be done.
What about Rule 419A of the Department of Telecommunication, which permits phone tapping for up to 15 days pending formal authorization? That rule actually caters for misuse.
But you will also realize that many of the investigations which have taken place against the terrorists have been, done with the help of the conversation.
But it's a question of balance. A rule that helps you catch terrorists is also abused in the case of politicians.
That is exactly what we will try.
So again, you will tighten this up?
It is exactly what I'm saying. Those whose phones need to be tapped in the interest of the country, in the interest of the security, in the interest of defending the country and defending the innocent person's life, which will be done. At the same time, there is other side, as you rightly said, it can be misused. As to what should be done to see that it is to be misused, if there is any scope for looking into it, we will certainly look into it.
Many people will hear that and take heart from the fact that you are prepared to tighten the laws to stop misuse.
I'm not.
Let's move on.
Tightening the law also can be misused, and loosening the law also can be misused. So I shall have to be correct. I am saying that if there is any defect in the law, in any improvement is required to meet the requirements, to meet the technological developments that have taken place, to cover many areas, it should be possible. It is the duty of the parliament.
Let's then move to the decision to dissolve the Bihar Assembly, which the Supreme Court declared unconstitutional. As Home Minister of India, do you today accept responsibility for the fact that not just the government, but the president was put in a highly embarrassing situation?
Well, this is a matter which is before the Supreme Court.
The Supreme Court's given its decision.
No.
It's unconstitutional.
No. It has a final...
It's the judgment that has to come, but the decision is given.
No. I am not expected to comment on sub judice matters.
It's not sub judice.
It is.
No, the judgment is given. The dissolution has been struck down. It's just the explanation that's to be there.
It is a sub judice matter. And what we did, well, according to our understanding, we did it. And on the basis of the report received by us. And I think you have no reason to come to the conclusions that we had any bad intention.
Well, let me not question the intention, because no one knows the intention, but as you said, you did it according to your reasoning. The Supreme Court has said that the decision was unconstitutional.
No, I will not comment on the decision. I have not commented on that decision
I'm
in
not
the
asking
House.
you to comment on the decision.
No.
I'm asking you to accept responsibility for embarrassing the government.
No. You can't make me say that I hold responsibility or I don't hold, I'm responsible or I'm not responsible, or someone else is responsible. You can't have that thing from me.
Can I put something to you? In a democracy, accountability is important. Who is responsible for the fact that a decision that was deemed to be unconstitutional was taken at midnight and the president was asked to sign it at 2 or 3 in the morning?
You know, that was discussed on the floor of the House. If necessary, it can be discussed on the floor of the House. All these things in which the decision taken by the people in Bihar, decision taken by the responsible persons in Delhi, and the decisions taken by the Supreme Court are involved. Within 5 minutes' time, I'm not in a position to comment and say this way or that way.
I want to put a simple thing to you. As a man of conscience and integrity, as a former Speaker of the Lok Sabha, do you have no conscience about the fact that as Home Minister, you ended up being responsible for the dissolution of an assembly which was deemed to be unconstitutional?
How much you understand that these decisions are not taken in the ministry?
In other words, you're saying the Prime Minister is responsible, you as Home Minister
are not taken by the Prime Minister. These decisions are taken by the Cabinet.
And the Prime Minister is the head of the Cabinet, and the Home Minister is an important part of the Cabinet. And governors come under you?
You please don't try to lead us in the area in which there will be differences between the Prime Minister and the Minister and the Governor and the Supreme Court and the Executive.
So people listening to this interview will conclude that Shivraj Patil, as Home Minister, has no sense of conscience about this decision.
Well, that is your judgment, that is your understanding. You are at liberty, and you have been saying it at our face, even behind our backs. We are not complaining.
All right, Minister, let's take a break at that point. Let's come back and talk about the many insurgencies that as Home Minister you have to tackle and how you're faring. That's the subject in a moment's time. Stick with us. Welcome back to Devil's Advocate and an exclusive interview with the Home Minister. Mr. Patil, let's turn to some of the long-running insurgencies that you have to tackle. Governments of India have been talking to the Naga NSCN since 1997, and maybe as many as 50 rounds of talks have been held in that time. Are you nearing a solution?
Well, you have to understand, we have to understand that these talks have helped us to maintain peace and tranquility in that area. And we are trying to take into confidence those people who had taken to arms. And today they are helping us to maintain peace and tranquility. This is to some extent helping all of us. Now, exactly what they want, what can be given under the Constitution or in any other manner has to be looked at.
Can I point out to you what Mr. Muiva, the head of the NSCN, recently said? He says the government of India is not focused on a solution. Its only interest is extending one ceasefire to the next. It has no vision beyond that. So let me bluntly ask you, do you have a roadmap for a solution?
No, what do you suggest us to do? Not to maintain law and order over there?
No, I'm not talking about law and order. I'm saying, are you talking about the two critical issues that matter to the Nagas?
Which ones?
Special federal relationship with India and the integration of all Naga areas outside Nagaland within Nagaland.
Now, you are a responsible citizen of the country. I am a responsible citizen of the country. Have you understood the implications and impact of it, of doing it or not doing it, or giving an impression that we are not interested in looking into the matter, or saying that yes, we can do it?
But you see, your attitude has led Mr. Muiva to conclude that the talks are not serving any purpose. No. He's even begun to say, and I want to quote him, now we are wondering whether it has been worth our while to have come so far.
Well, that is your impression, and
that's Mr. Muiva's impression.
Mr. Muiva has been considering this matter for a pretty long time, and he understands the difficulties involved in it.
He says the talks are in danger of collapsing.
No, we know more than anyone else what he says and what he doesn't say.
So you mean he's saying two different things?
No, I'm not saying this thing. Why should you put that in my mouth?
Because this is what he's saying to the press.
I'm saying that he understands the difficulties involved in it. At the same time, he wants that what he wants should be given to him. At the same time, he is realistic enough and he is strong enough to pressurize those who can give him what he wants in a manner which can be done.
Then let me ask you a blunt question. The Naga ceasefire ends on the 31st of January. Will it be renewed?
Are you satisfied or not with the peace and tranquility that has existed in that area for the last 50 years?
Well, it's not for me to express my personal opinion.
Why not?
For the simple reason that my opinion doesn't matter. You're Home Minister. Let me come back to the question I asked. Will the Naga ceasefire, which expires on the 31st of January, be renewed?
I think it would be, but then there are two parties to this agreement, and depends on the attitude and...
you don't sound very confident.
Well, I am confident because I understand that ordinary human beings understand the realities, and they are peace and tranquility.
Will it be renewed for a full year, or will it simply be renewed for 6 months?
I have no idea. We have constituted a group of ministers who are looking into it, and we have appointed an interlocutor, and they are looking into it, and we are helping them. And we do think that we have created an atmosphere in which there is no full agreement, but there is understanding as to how to go about it.
All right, that's your version. I have to point out for the sake of the audience that certainly what Mr. Muiva seems to be suggesting recently to the press is very different, but you're contesting it.
I'm not contesting, I'm not opposing, I'm not saying that he has not made that statement, has made it. I am talking about my understanding of the situation and understanding of the manner in which the talks are going on.
Recently, you've held a round of talks with Sajjad Lone, but 4.5 months have passed since you last spoke to Mirwais Omar Farooq and the All-Party Hurriyat Conference. You promised at that time to have a second round. It hasn't happened. Why not?
You know, they spoke to the Prime Minister, and I was also there. And I think the attitude adopted then by them was very good. They said that we have made some proposals. Please examine them and take proper action. On some of the proposals, we have taken action. Now, there was a suggestion made by other parties also that don't talk only to a few individuals or few parties. There are others also, you talk to them. And the government said, yes, you are also welcome to talk. And that is why this process is going on.
But Minister, 4.5 months have passed since you spoke last to Umar Farooq. You haven't spoken to him again. And do you know what he's saying? He says the UPA government is not interested. The NDA was more committed.
No. Well, again, our understanding of their attitude and the manner of talking to us is completely different.
You mean he's saying different things to the press compared to what he's saying to you?
Again, you are saying
But that's what you're suggesting.
I'm saying my impression. I'm not saying whether he has made the statement or not. I'm saying that our understanding is they are talking to us in a responsible manner. And we appreciate it. We are continuing dialogue. There are others who say that you hear us also, and we are doing it. I have myself spoken to nearly 20 groups and the parties. Prime Minister himself is speaking. And this
Can I point out what sections of the press are saying? They say that the only reason why the government is talking to Sajjad Lone is because they want to cut Mirwais Farooq down to size.
Well, this is you are probably, I wouldn't say that the press is trying to create a conflict between the two parties or things like that.
But is the press accurate in this assumption?
I don't, you have to judge yourself. Why, if it is said or not, why it is said, you tell me.
Then let me ask you this question. Let me ask you this question.
You are in a better position.
When will you call the All-Party Hurriyat organization and Mirwais Farooq for the promised second round? 4.5 months have passed. When will you call them?
It's not like that. You know, we have spoken to many, 20 groups I have spoken in Delhi. And you hear me, more than 20 groups in Srinagar, in Leh and Jammu and Kashmir. Prime Minister himself has spoken to these groups. Prime Minister is we are grateful to him, and we are all trying to see that understanding and a better
But you're
situation
not answering
is
my
created.
question. My question is very simple. When will you invite Mirwais Farooq back for a second round?
I have not drawn my appointment chart, and when it is done, it will be brought to you.
It doesn't sound if it's going to happen in the near future.
Well, that is your assessment. It can happen, it may not happen, depends on their time, availability of time, my time.
Are you
Prime Minister's
serious
time.
about the internal track?
Internal?
The internal track talks with your own people in Kashmir. Are you serious about it? Because you're progressing very slowly.
You don't know what is the progress done in bringing down the violence in Jammu and Kashmir. You have asked this question this time, last time you had asked me. Now the situation has improved so much.
All the more reason to be holding talks with people like Mirwais Farooq.
That is exactly what we are doing, and that is what we have been saying that we will do.
Minister, we have just about 2 minutes left. I want to focus the last 2 minutes on you personally. More than me, you must be aware of the fact that for the last 6 months, people in Delhi have been whispering about your future. They've been saying that he may or may not continue as Home Minister. Does this sort of speculation concern and worry you?
Well, if you are doing your duty, why should we be worried about it? And it is ultimately for the leader to decide. It is not for anyone else to decide. And what has been done is before everybody. If the situation in Jammu and Kashmir has improved, if in northeastern state it has improved, even situation in Naxalite is improved if you have dealt properly with tsunami and you have been able to do it. Well, that should give you satisfaction. You have committed a mistake. You should be unhappy about that. But why should we keep on speculating about yourself, what is going on?
Can I ask you this? Are you satisfied by your own performance over the last 20 months as Home Minister?
Well, you would say that if I say satisfied, then you would say that you are praising yourself. If I say dissatisfied, you will say that you are not confident. So,
but do you think you've done the best job you could have done?
Do you expect me to give a judgment on myself?
Have you done the best job you could have done?
Now, this is exactly what you are asking me, to judge myself and say that, oh, I did so well.
Then my last question.
Oh, I didn't do well. How can you ask me that?
My last question.
It is for you to judge.
My last question. If in 5, 10, 15, 20 days' time the Prime Minister were to ask you to step down as Home Minister, would you stay on in Cabinet or would you prefer to leave the Cabinet altogether?
Is it a fair question to me or to my Prime Minister or to my leader? And you expect me to reply to this kind of question to you?
How should I interpret that?
I don't know. You have to decide yourself. You said that you are talking to the Home Minister. You expect the Home Minister to reply to questions of this nature?
Home Minister, thank you very much for speaking to Devil's Advocate.
Yes.